गांव का कच्चा रास्ता मंजिलों से कहां मिलता है, पर आज हम इस बात को बदलने वाले हैं। बनाकर एक कामयाबी का रास्ता सर उठा के चलने वाले हैं। नए मौके, नए इरादे, बनेंगे खुद की मर्जी के मालिक। ना रहेंगे सपने आधे। जो ठान लिया करेंगे हम वही, दिखा देंगे दुनिया को कि गांव भी शहर से कम नहीं। जो अब तक ना हुआ वो कमाल करने वाले हैं। शहर भी देगा दाद जिसकी, हम वो मिसाल बनने वाले हैं। कुछ इसी इरादे के साथ स्पाइस मनी से हर गांव जुड़ रहा है। एक कामयाब कल की ओर बढ़कर लाइफ बदल रहा है, क्योंकि साथ हो स्पाइस मनी तो लाइफ बनी।
Yeah, welcome friends. My name is Avinash and I welcome all of you again to another interesting episode in our face-to-face company management series, where we introduce emerging corporates from various businesses and try to actually discuss with the top management about their growth prospects, their business model, and what is the kind of scenario in which they work as far as their respective sectors are concerned. So friends, today we have a very interesting company by the name of DigiSpice Technologies Limited, and we have the privilege of having the senior management team. We have with us Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, who's the co-founder and the CEO of the company, which is Spice Money. And we have also the CFO, Mr. Sunil Kapoor, who's director and CFO, Spice Money. Gentlemen, thank you very much for sparing your valuable time with us today. And I hope we'll have a very productive session discussing about your company's business model and plans. So thank you very much in the beginning, and now we can start.
Thank you, Avinash. Pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Avinash.
Thank you. So Sanjeev ji, my first question to you is, if you could explain our viewers, some part of the business journey of this company. How did this business start about? What is the positioning of Spice Money now in the current market? And what is your business model? If you could explain to us in a very simple manner that which are the kind of targeted customers which the company caters to. If you could add some color to this, and we can make a beginning.
Sure. So Avinash, so we are relatively about 5 years old now as an organization, but the real growth of the organization has been in the last 3 years, where we've built the organization from a clear opportunity and what we see as an opportunity and the kind of model that we want to build. What we've called Spice Money is a rural fintech platform. And what are we trying to achieve here? One is clearly the word rural means rural, which means the 7,000 blocks and the 6 lakh villages is our target segment. This is where about 80 to 90 crore of rural of Indians reside. And fundamentally, we are here to solve the problem of access to this customer segment. So what are we trying to do, Avinash? Very simply put, we put a rural consumer in the center and we said, what are the needs of the consumer? We wrote down all the use cases and then we put them under about 12 boxes. So banking, payments, savings, insurance, credit, collections, commerce, travel, education, health, right? Likewise, there are about 12 such boxes, and we said if we can get all these 12 services onto a platform, and if we can build a network of entrepreneurs in every block, gram panchayat and village, then why does a rural consumer have to step out of the village? Right? This is the large opportunity of this is the actual model that we are choosing. Let me give one example of one service. So somebody wants to, let's say basic banking, somebody wants to withdraw money. He comes to this Spice Money, a merchant whom we onboarded as a Spice Money Adhikari, who uses our digital app. He comes here, given his Aadhaar number, using his biometric authentication, withdraws money and goes home right in the village. He wants to make a bill payment, he does it there. He wants to but he wants to buy a ticket, he does it there. So a lot of these services now is happening at the doorstep in a village. This is our fundamental business model, Avinash. We've started with basic payment services, basic banking. Now we've got collections, we've got credit, we've got travel. So we're layering services one on top of each other, so that ultimately we're building, I mean, if you want to see, we're building a super app for Bharat.
Right. I think very, very well articulated by you, Sanjeev. Now tell me one thing, if I were to ask you, what is the pan-India kind of distribution as well as the kind of geographical reach which the company has? If you could add some color, how many such kind of dealers you have, or you call them adhikaris. If you can tell us what is the total number of adhikaris as of date, and what is the kind of KYC which you do normally to appoint such KYCs? Like, who would like to join your company? Basically, do you have some quality checks so that your services are delivered in a proper way to the final customer?
No, very interesting question, Avinash. So today, we have about 1.2 million Spice Money adhikaris. This is across 18,000 pin codes, right? But one important matrix that I want to call out is 2.26 lakh villages. So even, one of the metrics that we measure is how many villages that are we present in, and that's a very important matrix for us. We are widely spread across India, but our density, according to me, will be more in the north and central part of India. So right from Rajasthan till Bengal and the central part, that's where we are far more dense. Yes, but now we are increasing our expansion to the other parts of India. The onboarding of, so in our entire business model is hinged on two pillars, very important two pillars. One is the platform that we are building. And second is this entrepreneur whom we call the Spice Money Adhikar. Right? Because we fundamentally believe that this person, he carries trust in the community that he stays. Right? And for us, he is Spice Money in that community. Right? So for us, hence, there's a lot of due diligence and I'm using the word not just KYC from a documentation perspective, but also trying to filter the quality of this person is a very important criteria on how we have adhikaris with us. Right? So while we do the entire due diligence of typical KYC documents, video KYC, we also do physical onboarding of a lot of these adhikaris. But just to call out, Avinash, this person is a very, very important person in our business model because he carries the brand Spice Money in that community.
Okay. Sanjeev, tell me one thing, that do these adhikaris have to pay some deposit, just to ensure that whatever they do with the final customer is very safe? Is there some sort of deposit which you collect from these adhikaris? And secondly, what is interesting and which is really commendable for your company is that, you all have managed to create such a large network of these adhikaris. So, tell me, what was the process when you all actually started out, this Spice Money initiative? So did you all face any challenges initially, because obviously trust factor takes a long time to get built. Of course, now, Spice Money is a well-known brand. I think you all have a very large network. But if you could sound, initially, what are the kind of challenges and how did you all actually successfully come out of this and build such a large base of adhikaris? So if you could add some color on this.
So Avinash, you asked a question about what is the investment that is required. I'll answer that in the second part. Let me just talk about the journey of Spice Money. So what, if you look at the core of it, the problem that we are solving of, let's say, inclusion, and I'm saying financial inclusion, digital inclusion, was it not a problem earlier? It was a problem earlier. Could somebody have solved it earlier? Answer is maybe. Right? I don't think it's a problem that we've created. Everybody knew that there is a problem of lack of access in rural India, right? But today, why is it that we are standing far more confident and at a time where this is possibility, there's a possibility to solve it, is because there is technology available. Avinash, what's happened in this country in the last 5-6 years is a lot of public goods have been created, right? So today, the entire India stack, if it was not there, what we were doing couldn't be possible, right? So now, so all these public goods came. Now, what happened is because of the public goods coming, and at the same time, there's this whole, every Indian having a bank account, the whole Jan Dhan drive, right? Starting with that actually formed, I'm using the word, it was a big lever for this business opportunity to rise. And we saw those offshoots in the APS opportunity of the Aadhaar-enabled payment services. We saw that going. What worked actually, and I will still tell you, the biggest catalyst in building Spice Money was because of COVID. And what happened, Avinash, when COVID struck and everybody was actually at home, but the point is you needed money. In rural India, that's the only way of survival. You need the money, right? So what happened is services like our networks are like ours, which were open because we were in the business of essential services. That actually got discovered a lot by the people there, because they could not go to banks. They started to come to these centers to withdraw money to do their banking transactions. This also brought in a lot of entrepreneurship opportunities. A lot of people actually took this upon also as an entrepreneurship opportunity. And we saw big rise, big growth in our network from March 20 onwards. And I think in my mind, that was a very, very big, steep curve that we've ridden. What we also did is when we were going through this phase, we actually, earlier there was a bit of entry fee in terms of you wanted to become a Spice Money Adhikari, you had to pay a certain amount of rupees, and that was nominal. It was not a large. It was about it was sub 500 rupees. But what we did is we saw this also as an entrepreneurship opportunity for many rural Indians, and especially rural India. We actually waived that off. So today you can become a Spice Money Adhikari at zero cost, and you can start this business at zero cost. There is no cost to this doing this business.
Okay, but Sanjeev, basically, when you don't take any deposit or you take the Adhikari free of cost, initial, do you require to make any investment? Like, does he have his existing infrastructure or does he have his existing shop? So from your side, do you require to make any basic infrastructure cost to make this relationship operational so that, the business transactions start, working smoothly?
So, Avinash, one of the big checks that we do is we want all these adhikaris to be some shop owners running a shop, at least some premises that they're operating for.
Okay,
that's one of the prerequisites that we actually, as a business, we have kept that as a criteria for us, just because so that that the identity of that person is maintained. There is a place that he's working from, and people know of it, and it just adds to that dimension. Otherwise, if there is a biometric device, which is a basic device, and a smartphone that he needs, today most of these shops have a biometric device because they were doing business. If not, yes, they have to buy that biometric device as one of the prerequisites to start this business. That's it.
Okay. Sanjeevji, my next question to you would be that, in your assessment, you mentioned earlier in your introductory remark that, 6 lakh villages are your targets. There's a big market opportunity. So as far as your Adhikari network is concerned, what kind of run rate can we expect over the next, say, 2 to 3 years? Do you expect continuous addition here? Because, there's a lot of legroom to cover. So on that aspect, if you could share your thoughts.
So Avinash, what's happening is, see, there is a roadmap to building Spice Money in the next 5 years. And while we started with a basic use case of what is called ATM banking, but I think the opportunity that we are seeing in rural India is far bigger. Like I said, the first opportunity of, I'm using the word assisted services. So there's an adhikari who's offering assisted services to a consumer, right? And across everything, which is banking, payments, saving, insurance, that is one opportunity that we are building on. We're also now getting into the B2B opportunity of saying that there are merchants in rural India, right? Now, the merchants in rural India who also have a need of, they have to sell something. Where do they get those goods from? They have to get goods from somebody in a distributor who is in a district headquarters, that person. So there is a problem of access of supply there. Now, there is also a public good infrastructure of ONDC coming there. So we've also onboarded ourselves as ONDC, and we are trying to say that can we solve for this problem of lack of access of inventory to a rural merchant? That's a B2B space. Third piece that we want to, Avinash ji, we want to go in is that there is a part of rural India who is going to get digital first? Who will become digital, right? Not everybody is going to be always needing assistance, right? And we believe that's the youth. So we are also coming up with our own consumer app for that segment. So this is, these are all three platforms, Avinashi, is what we are now going into. What we started with a basic service, we're now actually moving into a larger of all three platforms, like, and I said, across all 7,000 blocks and 6 lakh villages. That's the roadmap we have for the next 5 years.
In fact, Sanjeev ji, I was reading from some newspaper reports, please correct me, that the company plans to launch these B2B services on the ONDC platform, which the government has, recently launched. So once this, platform and, this medium is properly commercialized, I believe, the company has some plans to come out with B2B products also. So does this actually, justify what you said earlier, that, B2B is also going to be a pretty large growth segment for you to grow and increase your touch point, with customers here?
Absolutely, Avinash. Absolutely. That's exactly what I said. My second platform is the B2B platform. You're right.
Okay. And, without mentioning a date, I mean, have all the necessary infrastructure arrangements, the kind of run up, for this, has work already started, or, you would be there, taking it up once everything is clear? Because, already a trial run on ONDC was done some time back. So clearly from our company side, can we expect this to happen at least in the next, say, 12 to 18 months, if everything goes as per plan?
Earlier than that, Avinash, rather than later than that. We're already in a COG environment already as I speak with you. So I'm very, very optimistic and very excited about that opportunity that we want to win faster than ever.
I think that is great news, because that will really ramp up your business quite significantly. Sunil ji, sorry for keeping you waiting for a long time. Now, from the finance side, sir, tell us one thing, that what has been the kind of broad capex, which the company has incurred over the last, say, 1 to 2 years, and specifically in FY23, if you can share some data point, what is the capex, which this business actually requires, because it's a high technology intensive business. So, इसमें कितना पैसा capex regularly routine पे, what is the kind of capex spending which the company does?
Sunil, you're on mute.
Sorry. So Avinash, so on the capex side, we have kept it light in our initial phase, because we keep on, because technology keeps on changing, because we are a fintech company, and there are a lot of changes are happening. So we are not banking more on the capex side to invest heavily on tech side. That's why we have kept it asset light. But having said that, we have invested with respect to provide our adhikaris or the channel partners the devices. So that's the point where we have invested in the capex and given to them for a kind of a 1 year period to kind of utilize it for the services. So that's the major capex we have done. Other than that, only IT basic infrastructure, very light capex we have introduced. So we can consider that this whole model we can work with the light capex model.
Okay. Sunil ji, if you could explain to us, in every business, working capital is a very important component. But in our fintech business, typically, how does the working capital cycle happen, and what is the kind of normal working capital cycle in our business? Because we don't have inventories, we only have debtors. So if you can tell us, broadly, working capital cycle is how elongated is that? If you could explain.
So Avinash, let me give you the background when we have started, because this industry, because we are working for the banks and settlements comes in. Earlier, this was kind of a T+1, and we have to infuse our capital and to kind of that to manage more working capital earlier. But now with the industry having more kind of instant settlement regime, that working capital requirement is I will say that we are on the positive side of it, because we work on the prepaid model with our adhikaris for doing all the transactions, and we have to settle them. And whenever they need the money, that is available to either consume or either to take it to bank account to replenish their working capital. So from that perspective, I will say that this business model is not require kind of working capital, because the business model is such that we work on the adhikaris money, because we work on the prepaid model.
Okay. So I think that is the reason, I was observing one or two important numbers. Of course, these may not be relevant for a fintech company, but, from a manufacturing company, we normally see the cash flow from operations as a percentage of your EBITDA. Now, I was seeing that your cash flow from operations has been very healthy. In fact, much more healthier than your operating EBITDA numbers. So, I now get the point that, since you said it is a prepaid business, but then will this trend, Sunilji, continue in future also? Because you generate a lot of cash at the operating level, which is very much evident in your numbers. So, ये आगे भी trend चलता रहेगा?
Yes, the way that this business model what has been created and which has been well adopted on the ground, this will continue to be. We believe that this will continue.
So I think because it is really commendable, Sunilji, just sorry to interrupt. It is really commendable because we have seen some other fintech companies, where the cash flow from operations are still negative. They have not been able to make cash at the operating level. So, you all have definitely, maintained a very tight ship. I must agree and maintain. So, ये बहुत अच्छी बात है. This is really good. So hopefully, if it remains in future also, I think it will give a lot of strength to tell investors about your business model, because normally most of the analyst community looks at this, parameter very closely. Cash flow from operations, if it is continuously positive, that gives a lot of stability and positivity for the company's business.
That's why, Avinashi, we able to in last 1.5 years to invest in the organization structure and to reach on the ground, whether Salesforce or the corporate structure, to make it large.
Sunilji, one more thing I wanted to get a little clarification on the financials. In your quarterly, presentation, I was just seeing there were two cost components. One is the service fee, and secondly, there was this this device kind of cost. So if you could tell us, what are these costs? I mean, are these costs direct costs which are attributable to generating the revenue? If you could give us some idea, because service fees and this airtime and basically device fee, device expense has been actually deducted from your gross revenue, one of the sales what you generate. So if you could tell us, what exactly is this?
So, Avinashi, we focus on the service fees income. Rest, airtime and the devices is a kind of a part. And airtime specifically is that's a pass-through due to technical issue of having a GST P2P basis, what we purchase from aggregator, this airtime or from the telcos. So from that perspective, technically it is coming under as a revenue and cost. So airtime is a kind of a pass through, and devices, we don't intend to on the devices. That's why we have separated it out. So we focus on the service fee revenue and the gross margin on service revenue.
But then if I were to ask you, this service fee and this device expense, what you take out from the profit and loss account, are these fixed in nature or are they variable depending upon the revenue you generate? That was what I was wanting to also know.
Okay, so service fees is variable as and it's in line with how the GTV grows according to the product portfolio. And as the product portfolio increases, whatever the ratio of that product portfolio, accordingly that our gross margin gets impacted. So it's invariable in nature.
Okay, fine. And Sunilji, one more thing which I wanted to ask you, that a lot of expense has now been incurred in the third quarter, especially on indirect costs like employee costs, marketing costs, sales, administration, marketing costs to generate revenue. So what is the kind of trend which is expected? Can we expect this kind of expenditure to continue at least for the next 3 to 4 quarters, because it's actually increased significantly. I was just seeing it as a percentage of your revenue in the third quarter. It accounts for roughly about 17%. So, will we see these kind of numbers elevated at least for the next 2, 3 quarters before we see some traction in revenue? If you could add some color here.
Yeah, sure. I will align this with what Sanjeev has mentioned it out. We kind of had started in a smaller manner, and then now we want to build it on the bigger scale, and what the 12 products lines, what Sanjeev has mentioned it out. So we have increased this cost to kind of take off to the next level the organization. And we have strengthened all departments, whether it is a tech, marketing, or sales force on the ground, and as a general administration, risk and compliances also. So from that perspective, we have invested into that, and hopefully we will see the operating leverage in the coming period. One more point you asked for, that's whether we see that in the next 3-4 quarters this trend will continue. We intend to have that investment, whatever is our roadmap to have these 12 services onboarded on our platform. So we will continue to invest. I will say that 3-4 quarters, you rightly said that this will continue. And we will see after that the operating leverage on this expenditure.
Okay, fine, understood. I think Sanjeev ji, now I want to ask you that as a business, you all have spent a considerable amount of time in this space. According to you, what are the kind of key competitive kind of moats or advantages which you have created compared to other players operating in the market? Like if I were to look at this company, what is it different from other players? Like there are other players also who are in the payment business. So typically in your assessment, what special qualities have you given to this business model where you can say that we are definitely an edge better than the others? So if you could share some qualitative or maybe some quantitative inputs, that would be helpful.
What I see that stands out in favor of Spice Money clearly is the segment that we are operating in. And when I give you a matrix that 2.26 lakh villages में हूँ, ये आपको कोई matrix नहीं दे पाया. Right now, that is the kind of depth that we are going when you say rural. So today, क्या होता है? And actually, many people use the word Bharat, but they associate Bharat with a lot of district headquarters. But for us, rural is below that district headquarters. वो जो 7,000 blocks हैं और जो 6 lakh गाँव हैं, this is rural India, and this is where the larger population, and this is where we want to be.
Okay.
Now, this, according to me, is the very large opportunity, Avinash. I think I would want to believe that we made an inroad into this segment because of the way the last 3-4 years have been. I think that has given us I'm using the word first mover advantage. Right? And hence, if you genuinely believe, Avinash, that today, rural is, can you hear me? Sorry, you can hear me, right? So if you believe, Avinash, that today rural India is the mega trend in this country, where the entire opportunity is, then I think the answer to that is Spice Money.
Okay.
That is the way I would want to outline where we stand.
So I think yes, sir.
One point I want to add what Sanjeev has said, that that's why the way we have structured our or build the channel on the ground, that will helpful for any company who wants to provide services or goods in the rural belt, and they can I will say that they will love to work with us with the reach what we have created.
I think coming to your market share, I was seeing broadly your market share is about 16.5%. Sanjeevji, can we get to know who are the comparable, companies which operate in this segment? If you could, maybe at least name some of them who are listed or unlisted, because today we hear a lot of fintech companies in the payment business, but very few companies in the rural markets. Like as you rightly mentioned, in rural India, focus players are not available like your company. So, is there any like-to-like comparison where we can, say compare Spice Money with some other company, or is it like you are unique in your market?
See, Avinash, I'll tell you, if you just pick up the ATM banking, and where you said 17% market share, then you might see there are other players also doing that business.
Okay.
However, like I said to you, that is not our only business model.
Exactly.
Right? So if I were to now, the way I articulated my business model of solving for all assisted services onto one platform, the B2B side on the back of ONDC, and solving for a consumer, rural consumer. When I look at all three, in the segment that we are in, I don't see anybody else. And I think that is a unique opportunity for us. It's also a big responsibility for us.
Exactly.
Right? That can we take the lead of building our brand onto all these three platforms in this area? So that is the way I would answer your question on competition.
Okay. And Sanjeevji, one more question which I want to ask you is, a lot of fintech companies are now, also coming and looking at the loan disbursement opportunity. Like, I would not like to name those companies, but there are many companies who are now working with commercial banks, private sector banks, public sector banks, and are acting like intermediaries. Kisi ko loan chahiye, kisi ko, they want some short-term loan. So is Spice Money also looking at these kind of opportunities, or will it focus on these 10, 12 services initially, and maybe later on they might consider looking at this opportunity? If you could, tell us.
So, Avinashi, on the 12 services, credit is one of them, and it will be one of the big ones.
So, if you could tell us something on the credit side, Sanjeevji, what exactly does our company do?
So, Avinashi, credit there are two models that we've started with, and obviously it's going to expand. One is credit to our own Adhikari. Because today there is an Adhikari network who's using my platform to do business. Basis his transaction history, his longevity with us, right? We've done a credit scoring on that person, and we've enabled we've enabled a line of credit for that person. Okay. So we're offering credit to our own Adhikari. That's one opportunity. Right? Okay. The second opportunity is credit to consumers. Through the network, through the Adhikari, can he now offer credit to consumers? It's a business that we've just started, Avinash, very, very recently. Okay. But that is the next big trend that we will move into, of not only credit to our own Adhikari network, but credit to consumers in rural India through the Adhikari.
Exactly. Okay. So that business, Sanjeevji, you believe that, since you have started recently, we could see a decent traction in FY24 then? Because, तब तक तो मेरे ख्याल से पूरा reflection आ जाएगा.
We should see, yes, credit will be a big business line. It'll be an interesting business line, and yes, you'll start to see a good ramp up from next year now.
Okay. Sunilji, one question to you. In the third quarter, we saw that our revenue was more or less flat. So, isme kya, I mean, if you look at it on a YOY basis, so any, seasonality in our business or anything specifically why the revenue was more or less flat? Isme, why was the percentage growth on a YOY basis virtually the same revenue what we incurred in December last year? हमारा कुछ 215 crore था. अभी I think we did about 230, 232 crores. So any reason for this flattish kind of trend, if you could explain?
Okay, this flattish trend is because our hook product was APS and is hook product is APS. So there is some traction have seen in the APS business. Because earlier due to pandemic, whatever the persons goes to the villages and survive over there, whatever they were doing, and so they were using more this services at their nearby. But later on, this feature has gone away, but that has kind of is a, I will say, a temporary pause. And because the opportunities are others also, and what Sanjeev has also mentioned, that's an opportunity to have a 6 lakh villages. So we intend to increase our reach to those areas where we are little bit not at the level in comparison to other areas. So there will be a more traction on that. Yes, on the APS, which is a hook product, there was a traction in the industry. So that's why this has shown this result. But going forward, as we mentioned about the operating leverage and the leverage of the channel, we will be able to show higher numbers.
Sunilji, one more thing which I wanted to ask you. We are not asking for any targeted number, but on a very broad basis for FY24, can we expect that the company comes back into a strong operating kind of margin range? Because third quarter numbers have been a little negative. So if you could share with us basically what is the kind of path for EBITDA profitability? Because once the EBITDA profitability becomes strong, then obviously the markets also will look at your company more strongly. So any thoughts and views on that, if you can share with us without putting any number in specific?
Yeah, Avinash, as I mentioned in my earlier comment, that's the operating leverage has to start kind of 3 to 4 quarters down the line. Hopefully, we foresee that there will be a positive growth on EBITDA side from last quarter or the GFM 24. We can foresee that.
Okay.
I want to add, Avinash, one point here, and I think it's very important to call out with reference to when you say the Q3 of FY23 and all. See, Avinash, fundamentally, if you look at 2 years, we've been an EBITDA positive organization, and I think the core of this business model will always remain about generating more EBITDA and throwing cash. That's a core, and it will continue to be, and that's the core on which we are building this business model. First, what's happened, Avinash, a couple of things. Like I said, that it is very important for Spice Money to pivot to a larger opportunity. We were doing something, but that something, according to us, when we say our rural India, there is a larger opportunity for us to win and play, and probably be the first player or the largest player to win that space. Now, this is an important question that came to us, and we had to answer it. And we are very clear that we want to occupy that, which means pivoting Spice Money to a larger opportunity, which also means pivoting Spice Money to invest into those larger opportunities. Exactly. So I think a lot of that has been happening in the last, I'm using 2 to 3 quarters and maybe a few more quarters, like the way Sunil expressed. But fundamentally, that investment is only to build Spice Money to make it a far richer and bigger organization. Keeping that sanity there, that this business will generate operating leverage, and we're very, very excited about how that is going to pan out over the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay. So I think, Sanjeevji, one thing which I think actually reiterates your view is that in financial terms we look at the operating cash flow. So you all have been generating very healthy cash flows in the last 3 years. So obviously it is already a tightly managed ship. So what you mentioned is right, that once the operating leverage comes from your other initiatives, then I think revenue growth and the profit growth will definitely follow. Sunilji, just wanted to understand that what is the current borrowings as on date for the company, both short term, long term. What could be the kind of broad number be like as of now, as of date?
So as on date, we don't have a borrowings per se. Borrowing in the financials is coming only for a treasury management for a ODFD kind of facility. There is no long term, or I will say even for the short term, it's a kind of a day scenario which gets settled in the next day. So this is a treasury management borrowings. In real terms, I will say that we are not having any credit on the balance sheet.
No, but whatever number is appearing on the balance sheet, you mean all that is short-term debt only, which will be repaid soon? I mean, I was seeing up to September, it was about 45-50 crores. So, if that money...
So at the quarter end, you will be, because we have to work with a lot of banks and their request for having the funds also. So from that perspective, we do the treasury management in such a way. That's why it's getting reflected. Otherwise, this is not a regular feature also, and it's not any long term. It's only a day or two phenomena.
Understood. Sanjeev ji, one more question which I wanted to ask you. Now, since you have started this business, the momentum has got scaled up. You got very large business plans, as you said, to pitch for the next big opportunity. In your assessment, in the next say 2 to 3 years, what kind of growth opportunity can we expect? At least, if not giving a number, Sanjeev ji, can we at least expect from you what is the kind of CAGR growth which we can expect over the next say 3 to 4 years? That is something which is very reasonable to expect. If you could share some numbers.
So Avinash, I don't know how should I share numbers, but I think the base that we are working on today and what we will be in the next 3-5 years will be very different.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think we'll be able to compare it because you're going to be talking of today. We see APS as our lead product. I think according to me, you'll see all services being giving us some bit of pie, occupying a share of that pie as an assisted offering. You will have the merchant story, which is so for directionally, we want to onboard about, let me put it this way, 10 million entrepreneurs in the next 5 years time, if that is one. And we want to onboard about 50 million digital consumers in the next 5 years. These are two large goals that we've set out for ourselves, and then you can calculate the kind of throughput that these two numbers will generate. So I think that's
fine. I think this is I think really a very broad but a very exciting kind of number which you have shared with us. Sanjeev, my last question to you is that in our business, what could be the single most risk factor? Like what can go wrong? Like you said everything is going smoothly. A lot of new touch points are being penetrated by the company. And what is the competitive moat which can make you survive and still flourish in this industry if at all some event happens? Like, of course, if you leave alone COVID, which was relevant for almost every company, but business conditions change, challenges come and they go. In that perspective, how are you uniquely positioned? You said you got a unique position in the industry. So to fight out any adversities, what are the kind of buffers which you have created in your management team? What are the risk-taking kind of mechanisms which you follow in the business? If you could share some thoughts here.
So Avinash, see, there are multiple contours to this answer, but let me try and answer all of them. The first is we are dealing with rural India. So there is, by default, there is a consumer segment who is not, I'm using the word, as financially savvy as an urban consumer. There are many of them who are not as digitally savvy as we are. Now, hence, there is this whole risk of, there is a trust risk here. And it's important for us to build that trust, which means that my platform has to work flawlessly. The money transactions that have to happen smoothly, right? The risk of fraud should be minimal on this network, right? Which means the adhikari being onboarded, the platform being worked should not be misused. So there's a lot of, I'm using risk management here that is play because of the consumer segment that you're dealing with.
Exactly.
One part, and that's very important for us. So that's one part. The second part is, and I often call it, is that space that we are in, the model that we are in. We don't have a reference point. There's nobody who's done it before. So a lot of it is we are learning on the go, right? And we are an agile organization who's going to change a lot of these things. So we might be predicting few things. The model might work, might not work. So a lot of that is what we're going to invent on the way. We don't have a rule book there which we are following, right? Hence, it's more of entrepreneurship at play, Avinash. We will make mistakes, we will rectify them, we'll move forward again, right? So this is not a tested market. As much as you said, nobody has done this in rural India, to solve for all the services that you said. It's not happened well before.
Yeah.
So I think execution is a very, very important, I call it a key enabler for us if we want to succeed to what we are saying, right? To the vision that we called out. How well as a team can we execute all of this is something that we're going to be tested on. So apart from the risk compliance, which is because of digital and financial literacy, Third, very important piece, Avinash, is that rural India is all about trust, people, community, and hence the brand has to resonate with that, right? Because, and you got to be a brand for that. It's very, very important. And the brand doesn't get built in one way. We are not such a capital flush organization that we're going to plow it into building a brand in terms of marketing. I don't think that is our approach. We are very, very tight controlled, and we want to be in terms of our managing our own capitals. So we have to build this brand on the ground, which means that our own demonstration of how we build this business is going to build the brand. So these are 2-3 pieces that Avinash, which is very important for us in the journey ahead.
Sanjeev ji, my last question to you is that you mentioned about brand creation. I think your brand ambassador is Mr. Sonu Sood. So if you could tell us, how do you plan to use his popularity and encash that for the company? So what is his strategic role in coming and joining hands with your company? Is it a long-term relationship, first of all? And secondly, how does it add value to your customers? In building relationship, in building trust, in building familiarity. तो थोड़ा बहुत इसके बारे में बताइए.
So Avinash, what happened is it's more of a coincidence, but it's about 2 years ago in the midst of COVID. We were also obviously in that phase, like I said, we saw COVID as the opportunity to scale quickly, and we were looking at how we scale, and we were looking at the face who could represent Spice Money to help us then. And coincidentally, obviously Sonu was a very, very well known face at that point of time, and COVID and the work that he was doing, especially with rural Indian consumers. And when we got connected and we actually wanted him to be the face, he said, no, let's do it in a bigger way. I'm very, very excited with what you guys are doing. So Sonu is pretty much in terms of part of, as a brand person to build Spice Money. And you've noticed a lot of our marketing collaterals, creatives, programs are hints about how we project Sonu to the mass and to the audience. So he's been a great support of Avinash, and we want to continue to use him.
Okay, I think Sanjeev ji and Sunil ji, thank you very much for your valuable time today. I think it was really a very productive session, and please accept my best wishes to your entire team as well as for the company, and thank you very much for sparing time today.
Thank you so much, Avinash.
Thank you, Avinash ji.